Hello out there. Welcome to today's Search Engine Journal webinar. I'm really excited to have you here, that you chose to spend this time with us here. And so with me, I have the team from Conductor. I have Stephen, who is the Director of Organic Marketing, and Alexandra, who is the Principal Solutions Consultant. Stephen, I know you've been here with us before. It's been a little while, but thanks for coming back. And Alexandra, welcome to your first SEJ webinar.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, awesome. I'm going to do some quick housekeeping just to get everybody acclimated, get them in their seat. Use the chat. Let us know where you are coming in from today. Love to see all of those countries and regions where we're hitting. So yeah, if you need closed caption, it's the little CC in the top right of your screen. Give that a click. We are going to do Q&A at the end of the presentation. So if you have questions for Stephen or Alexandra, use the Q&A tab to let us know. You can also give any questions that you want us to ask. Give it a little upvote, give it a little thumbs up, and it'll tell us that more of you are interested in that. We'll do our best to front load those. Before you leave today's call, we're going to shoot out a quick survey. It just takes a couple seconds and lets us know how today's webinar went for you, how we can make them better in the future. And lastly, you will absolutely receive today's slides and the recording, so you can watch your inbox for that. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Steve and Alexandra. And yeah, thanks for joining us, and I'll see you back at the Q&A.
Thanks, Heather. All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Yeah, let's talk technical SEO best practices today. We're going to be walking you through the different stages of Google's pipeline: discoverability, crawlability, indexability, ranking, and then improving user experience. So Alexandra and I are super excited to walk you through it. A little bit of housekeeping. So we think the webinar is going to take around 45 minutes. So we'll have room for Q&A. If you have any questions, drop them in the Q&A box, and we'll get to them during the Q&A. Yeah, Alexandra, could you briefly introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, hello everyone. Happy Wednesday. My name is Alexandra Dristas. I am a Principal Solutions Consultant here at Conductor. So been with the company for a little over 5 years now. I'm really excited to walk through some of the technical SEO best practices with everyone.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, and me, I'm Steve. I'm the Director of Organic at Conductor, basically responsible for content marketing and SEO. And I've been with Conductor for 2.5 years as the company I co-founded, Content King, was acquired back then. I've been in SEO for like, I don't know, 15, 16 years, so super long. But still very much excited to talk about SEO. So yeah, without further ado, let's dig in. And I'm going to give the floor to Alexandra. Take it away.
Perfect. So we're going to start off here just talking about like what is technical SEO. So starting off here too, technical SEO refers to your site's health and performance. So both of which, of course, are going to be factor into your site's ranking on the SERP. So technical SEO optimization, though, is an ongoing process that ensures your website's technical foundation is performing at its best. So if your technical SEO is poor, search engines are going to struggle to discover, crawl, and index your site quickly and correctly, which will cause your user experience to suffer, costing your site valuable traffic, engagement, and conversions. So now we'll just talk about, like today, I guess I'll say, we're going to look at the 4 pillars of technical SEO. So we have discoverability, crawlability, indexability, and user experience. So Steve and I are going to speak to some actionable tactics for optimizing your technical health and website performance across the 4 pillars you see here.
Great. And let's dig into the first pillar, which is discoverability, which basically means ensuring that search engines like Google can easily find or re-find your site's content in an efficient manner. So when we're talking about this, one of the first things that comes to mind is like the XML sitemap. it's a pretty efficient way to communicate all of your content to search engines. And it's being used to crawl sites, to discover new content, et cetera, et cetera. Now, there's a couple of other things you can do as well. And we broke it down into these 5 best practices. And the first one is optimizing your site architecture. So making sure you have a logical site structure using topical clusters, pillar pages, nice readable URLs, and basically keeping your content together neatly in subfolders. And if you do this, it's not only good for your own sanity when you're thinking about, it's like, oh, where's my content live? But it's also useful for search engines if you store places consistently across your site. And the other one, very much intertwined with your site architecture, is your internal link structure. So internal linking is one of the most important factors for search engines as to how they discover about new content or content that may be worth recrawling because you may have been making updates, et cetera, et cetera. So having a very like strategically implemented internal link structure is super important. And where we're talking about internal link structure, we're talking about like your main navigation, sidebar navigation, footer navigation, but also like in-page links. All of that together is your site's link structure. And now the third one, I already touched on a little bit, is the XML sitemap. So it's basically a file, and you can split it up if you have like a big site, or if you want to neatly categorize your page content. So for example, if you have a blog and a dictionary and some about us pages and some sales pages and some landing pages, well, you could technically have like 5 mini XML sitemaps, which you then put in one index XML sitemap. So it's neatly structured. It's easy for you to see in, for example, Google Search Console, also like on a page type level, how your pages are getting indexed. But yeah, this has been around for like 20 years or more. It's a super efficient way to communicate what content you have on your site to search engines. And Google recently said, like, hey, folks, we actually use these XML sitemaps still because it's proven to be super efficient for us to rely on them. And like folks have been abusing it a little bit as well by updating like the last mod date, like the date the content was last modified, which could send like a strong signal to Google and other search engines like, hey, like come on back to the site because we made a ton of changes. But if they're like coming back and they're like underwhelmed, so you didn't really change anything, they're sort of going to ignore your XML sitemap, take it with a grain of salt and be like, yeah, we're not going to rely on this so much as a signal as to whether or not you updated your content. And the next one is one that a lot of SEOs know about, but tend to forget. So there's this amazing initiative called Index Now, which some search engines participate in. Unfortunately, Google is has trialed or is still trialing it, but at least Bing is using it. It's basically a way to tell like a variety of platforms that you either have new content or that the content has been updated. So it's like super efficient. And basically other services can just plug into this protocol, which is great. But only if Google adopted this, that would have been even more amazing. One of the cool things about the Conductor website monitoring platform, previously called Content Key, is that there is an Index Now integration. So when the platform discovers new content and you're using the Index Now integration, you can push that, like the new content that the platform found, you can push that into Index Now, which then propagates it to, like, for example, Bing. So that's pretty sweet. And then the last one I want to touch on here is leveraging Google's indexing API. Now, historically, it was developed to for you to be able to push events and job postings. And my recommendation would be to use it for just that. But if you're experimenting on a personal website that you're experimenting with and like can get penalized or whatever, this is cool to play around with to see if you can like push other types of content through the indexing API from Google as well. I know folks have used it for that and it worked pretty well, even just to get things moved a little bit. So yeah, this is a pretty good way to specifically for job postings and events to get those indexed quickly, as they're like time sensitive. And with that, I'm gonna give the floor to Alexandra again.
All right, perfect. So now we're just going to walk through crawlability and that impact from a technical SEO perspective. So for starters, like what is crawlability and why is it important? So crawlability refers to how easily a search engine can access your site and pages through content that they've already discovered. And when we're looking at crawling is going to refer to a search engine's process for requesting or downloading content and pages online using bots, so spiders or crawlers, who hand over the content to the indexer. So these crawlers use links between different pieces of content to navigate to and discover new or updated pages. Hop to the next here. So perfect. So one of the things that we've mentioned a little bit here is just around conductor website monitoring, which is powered by Content King. So this is a tool that you can help you optimize for crawlability. So it is a 24/7 monitoring solution that's going to help you surface issues related to website performance in real time. So really good, customer example story. So we had actually set up a trial for a major electronics retailer. And they had received an alert that their robots.txt file was updated to disallow everything, including Google, from crawling their site. So they received that alert. They were able to look into it and realize that they said an intern had actually gone in and made those changes. So I feel like they always do that. They were like, oh my gosh, but the conductor website monitoring had alerted them to that change and that their pages were now becoming non-indexable in real time so that they could go in and address the issue before it negatively impacted their crawlability. So just a call out here is there are tools that you can use to be able to understand when these things are happening as they're happening. Cool. But how do we optimize for crawlability? So it's about making it easy for Google to crawl your website. So to improve your crawlability, you need to increase the likelihood that your content is linked to a page that Google has already discovered and indexed. So of course, all crawling is done through links, so internal and external. But when it comes to optimizing for crawlability, it's all about making it easy for search engines to navigate to the right pages through those links. And if your pages can be crawled quickly, that likely means that your site has a solid technical foundation, which is going to increase the likelihood that you'll rank well on the SERPs. Perfect. Now I'm just going to hop into the crawlability checklist here. So these are just like 5 of those best practices that we'll walk through. So SEO-friendly URL structure, optimizing your crawl budget, avoid crawler traps, avoid duplicate content, and improving your site speed. So when it comes to creating an SEO-friendly URL structure, that's going to be essential for enhancing your site's crawlability. So recommendations would be developing short, descriptive, and consistent URLs that are easy for both users and search engines to understand, which is going to enhance content accessibility and your crawlability. So just making sure that as you are creating those URL structures, that not only Google can understand that, but users as well. And when it comes to then optimizing your crawl budget, so ensuring efficient use of your crawl budget by addressing like issues that would impact your ability for the spider site and Google to actually be crawling effectively. So like duplicate content, poor internal links, for example, slow loading pages, all of those should be optimized to improve crawling and indexing of your site. And then avoiding crawler traps. So crawler traps, which are like spider traps, are also called that, refer to a structural issue within your site that result in crawlers like finding basically virtually infinite number of URLs that are just really irrelevant. So prevent structural issues that create these, endlessly irrelevant URLs would be like monitoring for your duplicate content, disallowing unnecessary URLs, and then making sure that you're using or like the proper use of the no follow attribute. So just a couple of those recommendations that you could go in and implement that will help you avoid like crawler traps. All right, trucking along here. Next, we would have avoiding duplicate content. So duplicate content is confusing for Google. Google indexes only one URL for each unique set of content, but it's hard for the search engines to determine which version to index. So sometimes what will happen is both URLs will start appearing in the SERPs. So you can run into like keyword cannibalization where your pages are actually competing with each other for like clicks and traffic, which will negatively impact, of course, all versions of the page. So eliminating duplicate content will prevent confusion for search engines and that keyword cannibalization. So ensuring that there's only one URL for each unique set of content that's being indexed. So then lastly here we have around crawlability and optimizing would be improving site speed. So site speed can be optimized by removing duplicate content. So we're hearing a lot about that duplicate content, minimizing redirects, optimizing images. I also recommend testing your page speed with like Google Page Speed Insights to get a baseline of your site speed and help you find areas of opportunity to improve. Site speed is a major factor when optimizing your technical SEO. There's actually a study that was done by Amazon, and they said every 100 milliseconds in added page load time costs 1% in revenue. So it also is going to impact, of course, the user experience, which I'll touch on a little bit later here. I'll hand it back over to you, Steve.
Thanks, Alexandra. All right, so before we dive into indexability, you touched on a great point, Alexandra, when you're talking about crawling and internal and external signals. I was thinking about like discoverability. So the 5 aspects I touched on are basically all internal in nature, things you can easily influence. But like external signals like shares on social media, like publicly accessible platforms like X, and Reddit, whatever, those impact discoverability significantly as well. So I don't know, if you're tweeting out like a newly published article and it goes completely viral, you'll see that it gets crawled and indexed super fast. So stuff like that can definitely have a big impact on the discoverability speed as well. All right, having said that, let's dig into indexability. Indexability is really about ensuring that search engines can accurately index, meaning understand your pages, and making them eligible to appear in search results. It means that basically during the crawling phase, all of your page content is being downloaded. And during the indexing phase, that content is being analyzed. And part of the indexing process is also that, for instance, Google is rendering your page. They're basically trying to understand what a user would look like, but we'll be looking at if the page was shown in a browser. So that really is what rendering comes to. So for example, if you're using a lot of JavaScript, which modifies what's going on in the browser when a user first loads it, that's going to be showing to search engines after they've rendered the page. So there's a lot of stuff going on during the indexability phase. One of the things they are looking at is like, hey, should we actually be indexing this page? Yes or no? So pages can be indexable, they can also be non-indexable. And indexable pages can become non-indexable, oftentimes accidentally. And we often see this. So this is an alert from the Conductor website monitoring platform. about a site that has a bunch of pages that just became non-indexable. And this is like, as an SEO, this is something you definitely want to look at and you want to dig into it fast, because this can have a meaningful impact on your site's traffic, right? So what we see happen is that a lot of folks have like a staging environment running, and on the staging environment, which is inaccessible to the public, there is a site-wide robots no index tag. And sometimes when mistakes are made, and like the updated version of the website that's being tested in the staging environment is being pushed to production, and the meta robots no index is tagging along. And that's when you can see traffic drops and stuff. So having alerts like these, having a monitoring system in place that will alert you if stuff like this happens is really essential when it comes to like having a sound technical foundation of your site.
Right.
All right, again here, the indexability checklist is broken down into 5 aspects. And we'll kick off with the heading structure. So headings like H1, H2, H3, 4, 5, 6, they basically help not only users, but also machines like Google or ChatGPT or whatever, understand how a site is basically constructed and how a page is being structured. So for example, it's like, hey, you should only be using like one H1 and you should be using H2s for your main sections, et cetera, et cetera. You want to have like a logical hierarchy, so you shouldn't skip headings, et cetera, et cetera. So this is it's basically if you're turning a design into HTML and CSS, this is something a front-end developer would do automatically, sticking to a logical way of like structuring these headings. Now, the next one is canonicalization. And Alexandra already touched on this. She says, like, hey, this should be only, like Google's really, and search engines in general, are really only indexing one version of your content. So if there's 10 versions going around, like those 10 versions are basically going into canonicalization process, which is aimed at figuring out the canonical version, the one true source of truth. And they take into account like different signals. Like one of them is, for example, the XML sitemap. But other things are like internal link structure, external links, so links from other sites to yours. Basically, everything that signals some authority or popularity, if you will, is taken into account for canonicalization purposes. And then Google works its magic, and they'll say, hey, we're going to index this page and we're going to disregard these. And then oftentimes you'll see in Google Search Console, for example, that Google has selected a different canonical version. And that could be the result of this canonicalization process.
Yeah.
And the other one where you can really provide meaningful context about your content is leveraging Schema. So there's a on like the schema.org website, there is like a ton of schema types that you can leverage. Google only supports 24, I think. So things like a local business, and a person, organization, an event, and job types, reviews, stuff like that, products. All of those, like if you have those content types or entities on your site, if you will, you can mark those up using Schema. And it'll basically make it easier for search engines and machines in general to understand what they're looking at when they're going through the indexing process of your content. So this is very helpful. A lot of that is happening sort of like beneath the surface. What is very visible is basically what is being shown in the search engine result page. So for example, if you have a page that has reviews and you're using a review schema, you're gonna get those stars in the SERP, which helps you stand out more from the competition. So there is some big benefits to leveraging Schema. I already briefly touched on JavaScript SEO, but the best practice is to not add or modify anything that's truly essential from an SEO point of view using JavaScript SEO. And I'll give an example. Do not load your entire main navigation through JavaScript SEO after like when the page is being rendered, basically. So your initial HTML, your page's HTML needs to contain everything that's absolutely vital from an SEO point of view. And afterwards, you can use JavaScript to make some tweaks here and there and to load some content. But make sure that nothing that's truly essential from an SEO point of view is being added or modified through JavaScript SEO. I've seen the strangest things where, for example, canonical link tags were being changed through JavaScript. So the initial HTML contained a canonical, like, so for instance, like a self-referencing canonical. And then through JavaScript, the canonical would be changed to a different one. And Google is doing it like a first pass at your content. And it's not rendering anything or executing JavaScript. It's just taking the raw HTML and then like it says, hey, this is a self-referencing canonical. So I got to index this page. But then they go through the whole motion and then they find out it's like, oh, but like after executing all the JS, all of a sudden there's a different canonical, which is confusing. And it basically hurts your indexing process. And subsequently, like everything that follows, like rankings, organic traffic, conversions, the stuff that we all care about deeply. All right, and the fifth one I want to touch on is hreflang. Hreflang can be used on sites that appeal to like different audiences in different regions and folks that may speak different languages. So for example, I'm based in the Netherlands, but like in Belgium, which is south from the Netherlands, they can understand the Netherlands, like the Dutch language as well. So I can have like a site in one language, but I could also have one in Dutch and Flemish. And to make things really interesting, part of Belgium speaks French. So I could have a site in 3 languages. And now the French part could be interesting for the French folks as well. So like, imagine you've got like an online store and you're catering to different audiences in different languages because it converts best. But then, yeah, when someone from the Netherlands searches, you want to make sure that site comes up. Someone from France searches, you want to make sure the French site comes up, et cetera, et cetera. So you can use hreflang to help search engines understand how you want them to treat your content and where you want them to rank your content. This is also sort of like Google's Achilles heel. Hreflang isn't that easy and straightforward for Google to get right, and it very much relates to the canonicalization part that I touched on, which is part of the indexing process as well. So this is pretty complex, but super interesting as well. All right, with that, I'm going to give the floor to Alexandra again.
All right, perfect. So we're going to talk a little bit here now about user experience and that impact on and how to optimize for the user experience as well. So user experience, or UX, pardon, refers to how a user interacts with your website and how that site responds. So like, think about the last time you went to a website. This happens to me a lot on my phone, where I'll like click through on a result and it takes a long time to load, right? Or like I'm on a site and I'm clicking through maybe to a different product and I'm brought to like a broken page or a 404 when I'm clicking around. So in my opinion, and I think what most would agree, that that's a pretty bad user experience. And this is also something that Google is going to take note of as well. So if 2 websites are offering similar quality content, right? So there's like 2 sites, they have pretty similar content. but one is going to offer a better user experience, Google's going to promote that site. So poor UX and user experience is going to hurt you on two fronts, with the user and with the search engine. So how do we optimize for user experience? So you want to make sure that your website loads fast, provides a good user experience consistently to all of your users, regardless of like the device, region, and handicap. So in short, users want to get their answers quickly and they don't want to have issues. I know that I feel that way very much so. So a strong technical foundation helps your site deliver an experience that's going to meet the user's expectations. So now we'll walk through how do we optimize for UX. So that looks like optimizing your core web vitals and improving your site's accessibility. So first, when it comes to core web vitals, so how do we optimize for user experience? Well, monitoring your site's core web vitals. So core web vitals are a way to measure the user experience of a page. So there are 3 core web vitals: largest contentful paint, so LCP, interaction to next paint, INP, which replaced FID, and then we have cumulative layout shift. So if you there are multiple tools that can help you be able to understand. So using tools like we've mentioned, Conductor Website Monitoring, powered by Content King, PageSpeed Insights, Google Search Console, all of these can give you insights into your current performance and then opportunities for improving your core web vitals. So if field data for like those lighthouse metrics show page scores of good for LCP, INP, and CLS, all 3 of those, then they're going to your site will pass the core web vitals assessment. So something to just obviously make sure that you have a baseline understanding of how your site and those pages are performing across the lighthouse metrics and those core web vitals metrics. And then also understanding, what do I need to do in order to improve those? So is that minifying CSS and JavaScript? Do I need to compress images, remove any unnecessary code? Then we also have accessibility. So ensuring that your website fully operates on different devices in different regions and when used by certain users is all really important to optimize for the user experience. So for example, implementing alt tags on images or transcripts, like adding a transcript for your video throughout your content, makes your site more accessible for like blind or visually impaired users, right? Which makes it easier for any user to access and use your website, which is going to enhance the user experience. Cool. So I was talking a little bit about some of the tools that you can use when it does come to core web vitals, monitoring those and tracking those over time. So Conductor Website Monitoring, powered by Content King, will help you keep a pulse on your site's performance. So I have a couple of just like screenshots here around core web vitals. And then it can help you intelligently prioritize the issues that you have across those different performance metrics. So you can optimize for a better user experience. We also can set up alerts for you to be able to understand when you do have performance issues or any pages that might be failing some of those tests that we have. So you can get alerted to performance issues for important pages in real time. Hand it back to you.
Thank you. All right. So we're not going to let you go without any mention of processes and tooling, because incorporating technical SEO within your organization and teams really is a continuous effort. I always like to say search engines never sleep. They're crawling your site while you sleep and like while you're getting coffee, like the whole time. So when that's the case, you want to make sure your site's being watched by tooling like Conductor Website Monitoring 24/7 as well. You want to have all of those systems in place so you can act right away if something is amiss. And technical SEO is never done. It continuously evolves. And for example, like Google adds support for new schema types, or they're basically able to better deal with JavaScript, for example, or they're introducing new core web vitals, or swapping existing out for new ones, like we recently saw. with INT. So there's so much stuff going on in the technical SEO space that you're never done. You know, your website's never done, and your technical SEO is never done either. The whole field keeps evolving. So you got to make sure you keep up to date. So one of the things I would recommend is checking out the 30/30 webinars that Conductor does. My colleague, Pat Reinhardt, does those. They're not only very informative, but funny as heck as well. So those are cool. We also have a newsletter called Dispatch. It's really good, keeps you up to date. And then there's a couple of other newsletters that I like to read. There's SEO FOMO from Aleda Solis, which I love. And there is one from Mark Williams Cook. It's a weekly digest of basically all of the stuff that's been going on. So like if you sign up for those, like you're pretty covered. So yeah, make sure you and your team are up to date on what's going on in space. And on top of that, like even if you have like 24/7 monitoring going on, I would still advise that you perform sort of like mini SEO, technical SEO audits a couple times a year where you zoom in on specific parts of the site, which you deem necessary. So for instance, if you see that a certain section of the site struggling, and like only a low portion of your pages there is really getting indexed by search engines, something could be wrong, and it's worth taking a look at. So what kind of tooling can you use to make your life easier? We already touched on this a couple times. Conductor website monitoring is a no-brainer in this case. It mimics the way search engines treat your site. So it's super useful to keep a watchful eye on your technical health of your site. And the other one is Google Search Console. It's a no-brainer. Get that direct feedback from Google. It's really, really useful. And I must say that Bing Webmaster Tools has gotten really good over the last couple of years as well. And it looks at things slightly differently, and it's free. So I would definitely recommend getting that as well. And then when it comes to things like Core Web Vitals and PageSpeed Insights from Google is very useful. Chrome DevTools built into Google Chrome is very useful as well. And the Crux data is super useful as well. So for instance, if you compare PageSpeed Insights or like Chrome DevTools to the Crux data, it's basically comparing lab data, like an isolated test, like experimentation suite, versus real life data aggregated from like your entire audience visiting your site. So for testing purposes, PageSpeed Insights, for example, is super useful. But if you want to get a good overview of what's really going on your site from a speed and core web vitals point of view, take a look at the Crux data that's out there. I'll drop a link in the chat with some more info because yeah, that's useful to read up on. And then there's a very useful browser extension called Conductor for Chrome, which shows you basically all of your essential SEO properties of your page directly in your browser. So that's super useful for some quick debugging and everything. And with that, I wanted to make you aware of the 30-day free trial that we have for Conductor website monitoring. If you go to that link there, you can set up a free trial right away. If you're having any issues with the like the 14-day free trial versus the 30, ping the support team, support@contentkingapp.com, and they'll be able to sort that for you. And with that, I would yeah, love to go through the Q&A with you and Alexandra.
Awesome. Hey, while I pull up the first question, Stephen, can you reiterate? So you said the newsletters that you follow, and everybody will get the link to the presentation. And so those other newsletters that are linked in there, you will get those. But you mentioned Aleda Solis's FOMO. What was the other one that you mentioned? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
So Mark Williams Cook is an SEO from the UK. I will drop the link in the chat right now.
Perfect. Thank you.
The newsletter is
All
called
right.
Core Updates. It's coreupdates.com. I just dropped it in the chat.
Perfect. Well, let's get started. And there's your answer, Heather. All right, so let's throw this up. So, most voted question that we have came from Tyler. What would be considered duplicate content? If a company uses why choose us section on each page, is that considered duplicate content?
So I answered this a little bit very briefly in the chat here, but if you do have this why choose us section on each of your pages, that can be considered duplicate content, but it would really also depend on the overall uniqueness and value of the rest of the page content. So if all of these pages seem and appear very similar, and then they have the why choose us, then that's probably going to be deemed as a duplicate page. But if it's a small section on a larger piece of content that's very unique compared to the other pages, then that would be something where I wouldn't be as stressed about the duplication issue there.
All right. Jennifer asks, what are the biggest ways you see AI impacting organic traffic? We knew this question was going to come up, right? So yeah, let's just get to it.
Yeah, Steve, want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. So right now, I see AI making most of the impact when it comes to like topic ideation and content creation. I wouldn't recommend anyone generate like full pages because like these platforms like ChatGPT and Claude, they get stuff wrong. I wouldn't say that a lot of what they generate is like super nice to read, but it works very well in as a side gig. So for instance, hey, I wrote this. Can you help me make it more direct and fluent? Can you do like grammar checks? Can you trim it back a little? Stuff like that. That's super useful. So I think it speeds up the overall content creation process and also helps you with the content optimization process. Because, for example, you can train AI to apply a certain set of rules, like, for instance, Google's webmaster guidelines, and apply that to some of your existing content. So that's where I see AI having a lot of impact. Plus, like third use case, it helped you with like creatives and building out content outlines.
All right. So Judy asks, does no indexing hurt your SEO?
I can take this one. So no indexing, like as it sounds like that he's or Judy, I think it's Judy. I was like, Judy, I see warnings on pages I no index on purpose. Okay, yeah. So no indexing when it's used correctly does not hurt you from an SEO perspective. So that's going to help you maintain a clean, relevant index and ensure that search engines can focus on the most valuable content that you have. I know like Search Console will give you like these standard notifications that are like warning you that you're excluding, but if you're doing that intentionally, that shouldn't be an issue. I would also just say that like for pages, like when no indexing would be beneficial would be like if you have low value pages, or it sounds like that form is something that might be more like sensitive content, or if you have duplicate content. Those are all good examples of times when it would be beneficial for you to use no index.
Excellent. Sorry, I hopped over to the chat. There's so much going on right now. There's so many questions. And so, all right, let's see. We talked about that a little bit. You guys just talked about. Here's a question from Jack. Should you put video transcripts on a separate page or always on the same page as the video?
Steve, do you have an answer for that one, Steve?
I do.
I
yeah, go ahead, Alexandra.
No, I was going to say, I figured you would know, so I'm going to let you take it.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I would always combine these on one page because they're so related. So like, and obviously put the video first and then the transcript below. And I would do it like that. And if you're using automated service to transcribe the video, be sure to go through it or run it through your favorite AI sidekick to clean it up a little, because oftentimes like these transcribing services get like some words wrong, which makes sense because pronunciation, different accents like mine. But I would definitely put them on one page. Yeah.
All right. So Amand asks, if there's no dedicated search page for internal search and the URLs are being generated with each internal search that gets indexed, what's the best way to stop them? No, index the search page or disallow the parameters. Doing both suitable. It's a little technical, but it's what we're here for. Do we want to maybe come back to that one? Or
it's an interesting question, and there's a couple of things going on. So when you're talking about like no indexing, you're talking about really about indexing. When you're talking about like disallowing parameters in a robust text, you're talking about crawling the step before that. So I'm on like assuming some of these internal search pages have already been indexed. I would slap that no index, meta robots no index on there, and make sure that search engines are getting the message like, hey, get this out of the index. And now I would say probably a couple months in, I would add the disallow in the robust text to keep them out of there, like moving forward. So basically, you first clean it up, and you make sure like they're basically getting dumped out of the index, and then you ensure that they're no longer they're no longer accessible to search engines. Now, making URLs or like pages inaccessible to search engines doesn't mean they cannot get indexed. If I link out from my sites to your internal search pages enough, like Google's going to index that because they're going to be like, oh, hey, this is important apparently, so I got to keep it in my index. I don't know much about it, but I know like the Steve guy is linking to it, and maybe they'll use the anchor text for your title tag. I've seen some weird stuff in my days. So this is rare, but it can happen.
all right. Well, Sam asks, and I've actually seen this in a couple different other ways, people asking how, if they don't have coding experience or they're just getting started, any overview courses or skills within the SEO field that you would recommend that they start with?
Yeah, I feel like there are so many. I actually came from more of a front-end development background prior to coming over to Conductor, and also worked in email marketing. So when I came about a little over 5 years ago now, I didn't have an SEO background. So I definitely, and now technical SEO is definitely my favorite, I would say, aspect of SEO. But I just went online and just looked up a lot of courses. I know that Conductor offers SEO, technical SEO courses. I think Steve had shared a really comprehensive guide that we do have that will go through a lot of what we went through today around technical SEO. I can also follow up with anyone on the exact course that I took. I did take a technical SEO course, and I'm trying to think, I actually might have found it through Search Engine Journal. So something to look at there. I also really recommend the 30/30s that Steve had mentioned as well, because it's really just looking at what's going on in search the past 30 days in 30 minutes. So it's just a really great way to keep up with like what's going on. And he also has Pat Reinhardt, who leads the 30 and 30, has a really great way of just making everything very easy to understand. So I recommend checking out the Conductor, some of our courses that we do offer around technical, looking at those resources that Steve had mentioned here too. And then LinkedIn has a technical SEO course as well that I have gone through as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Alexandra. Yeah. All right. So
I just dropped one more.
Oh,
Oh yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, one more at the technical SEO course that I like.
Awesome, thank you. And so Katie asks, with so many schema options, how do you decide which to use? I'm sure this depends on so many factors, but yeah, what might
The
those
answer is
factors
always it depends.
be? It is. It is.
That's what I was going to say. It really involves understanding your content, and like you'd have to select like the appropriate structured data type to enhance the search engine understanding and presentation of your page. But that really is going to be, I would say, dependent.
Yeah, I would I would look at it this way. Look at what search engines your target audience uses, and it's likely going to be Google. Then look at the schema types that Google is supporting. So they have like a whole resource on this, and then like select the ones that make most sense to you. And look at some examples, look at what other sites are doing, and play around with it, start experimenting.
Always be testing, always be experimenting, right? So Adele asks, is there a way to test your site in different regions across the globe?
Do you want to take this one, Alexandra?
You can go ahead.
All right, cool. So there's a couple of things you can do. You can use, for example, a VPN, where you're like, hey, I'm gonna use a VPN in Australia to see how the site works when I access it from there. So something like that could work. You can also hard code sort of your location in your browser, where you're basically saying, hey, I'm in, I don't know, somewhere in Texas instead of in the Netherlands. So there's different things you can do. I would basically, if we were to have a conversation about this, I would ask you, it's like, hey, what are you looking to achieve? Are you looking for something like how fast is the site in like different locations? Then there's other tools out there as well, something like Pingdom. So I would really want to learn a bit more about this, see what you're looking to achieve, and then provide the best suitable solution.
Excellent. So this question from Rael, and I saw another one about alt tags too. So specifically asking, should they be optimized for the keyword or reflect the scene they portray? And then another one asked if there was any formatting, capitalization or, underscores versus, dashes. So any best practices for alt tags?
So when it comes to alt tags, there's a kind of dual purpose there, right? So it's improving accessibility, right, for people who are visually impaired, but also providing context for search engines. So I would say it's a little bit of a balance between like keywords and then making sure that you are describing the scene like effectively, because, for anybody that might be visually impaired, they want to be able to do that, but it is directional for search engine crawlers. So my advice would be trying to balance the two.
And then question, does having reviews visible on the SERPs improve ranking?
Mm-hmm. This is a question with a double layer. The answer is double layered. So if you mark up your review pages, you're gonna probably see that Google is gonna add those stars to your SERP snippet, which is great. It's not gonna impact your rankings directly. However, if your snippet is gonna get more clicks than the one above, eventually you'll see that you're gonna flip. Yours is gonna go up and the other one's gonna go down, simply because Google is learning from the user interaction with that search engine result page. So indirectly, yes, it often improves rankings. But it's not like a direct correlation factor.
Yeah.
And a little bit in tandem with that, while we just learned that it was not directly a ranking factor, but if you are not an e-commerce site, because we still know that those reviews are important, right? Just for the people doing the searches. So if you're not an e-com or third-party review, how do you add review schema?
Do you want to take that one, Alexandra?
Yes, I can take that. So if we're not an e-com site, how do we add the review schema? So that would be for like a service company. It sounds like you can like leverage review schema to display like reviews and ratings in the search result pages. So you would want to just identify which pages that you would want to show reviews for. So if you have like customer reviews that are on certain service pages or like testimonial sections, and then you would just want to implement the review markup on those pages. So you could just add those into those specific pages so that those would show up.
Thanks. So Jennifer asks, what is your opinion on domain scores, domain ratings? Does technical SEO play a part in this?
I cannot give you my opinion, and then Steve, if you want to give
Go for
yours.
it.
Okay, cool. So I feel like when it comes to like the domain scores and those domain rankings, I think that it really depends on what scoring you're looking at. So I know that there are like certain tools that will give you like a domain score. I don't know exactly how those are, like what's being piped into that. But if I were to create my own domain score, then I feel like one of the things that would be important is looking at like, content quality, backlink profiles, like that would be something that would factor in, but I'm not sure how in some of those other tools they are doing that today. But I think my biggest takeaway I would say is like, you could have the best content. It could be literally like stellar. And if you don't have proper technical SEO and it's not functioning for technical SEO or the user experience, like you're not gonna rank as well. So I think it does play a huge part in just like your performance in the SERPs.
Another way of looking at like domain scores, ratings, external links is thinking about it in terms of website migrations. So I would say that a lot of the website migration stuff is technical SEO related. And if you mess up your migration, you're going to see that your overall domain is going to take a hit, and thus impacting rankings. So that's another way of looking at it.
All right. We're going to throw this one up for fun. Last question. Are there any impacts of using emoji icons in the SEO title? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have absolutely no idea. Steve, what about you?
I have played around with this at a time when emojis were supported by Google. So they were being displayed in the title and meta description whenever the algorithm deemed them relevant. So for example, if you had a page about finance and you added like money emojis, they would be shown. But over the years, Google's really cut back on the emojis to clean up the SERP. And like, it's been a while since I've seen them. So right now, I don't think they are like really being shown. And like, yeah, I don't think they really have an impact on the SEO title, except for making the title longer. So I'll always go with an SEO title that makes most sense to you.
Perfect. All right. And with that, the emojis. All right. With that, we are going to let you both go. We're going to let everybody get back to their day. But before you go, Stephen and Alexandra, sorry, I came a little too fast. Tell the people where to find you.
Go for it, Alex.
Oh, yeah. So you can add me on LinkedIn, Alexandra Dristas. And I'm also just always available at adristas@conductor.com.
Cool. Yeah. Not a hard man to find. Stephen Van Vessum. There's not many around. And you can find me at svanvessum@conductor.com. So if you have any questions or like you want to chat SEO, just shoot me an email.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you both for being here. Thank you, everybody, for giving us your time. And we'll see you on the next SEJ webinar. Have a great day. See y'all later.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.